This video is going to be about how to play Duke Ellington's Take the A Train, jazz standard. It's a really good first one to learn as one of your first intros to jazz music. And we're going to talk about the melody. There's a little introduction. And then we're also going to talk about this chord structure, a couple things in it, and what kind of scales you can think about when you're improvising over these chords, right? So I want to talk about kind of the structure and theory in some of these areas, and where you can think about different kinds of notes. So I'm just going to play through it really quick, so you can get an idea. So that's kind of the base framework of the song, the melody. So we'll go through that. This is the same chord structure, but I've illustrated a couple things that I want to talk about. So first off, the intro. This is just something you just kind of have to learn. It starts on an A, and then you're able to kind of roll your hand all the way down to the C sharp. That's how it sounds. You might want to listen to that on the record to get an idea of exactly how it sounds. I'll try and find a link to one that sounds pretty clear in the intro. You can get an idea. But that's kind of the horn section usually kind of blares that out at the beginning. I like to do it in octaves. So you just kind of want to get that into your hand, where it kind of lends itself nice to this key. So now we got that out of the way, we move into the chords, which we're going to start with a C. You could play a C major 7, C major 9, whatever kind of color you want to put on the C. And then you've got a D7 flat 5, and that is highlighted by the melody note. You'll see that melody note lands right in that chord. And then we have a 2-5-1, the D minor 7, G7, C major 7, which brings us back to the tonic. So you'll see these 2-5-1s a lot in jazz music, and they're used as turnarounds, and some songs are made up entirely of 2-5-1s. Like if you look at a song called Satin Doll, it's several 2-5-1s in a row, or you could think of them as 3-6-2-5-1. That sort of thing, but that same kind of movement, moving in that 2-5-1, and then we're going to repeat the exact same thing. So let's look at each of those chords. First, just the C major. It's nice to C major 7's really nice to use there. C major 9. When I was playing that earlier, I was trying to play it just as kind of robotic as possible, I suppose. So that you kind of really clearly see these chords. So we got C major, add the 7th, and now we move to this D7, D7 flat 5, and I've got whole tone written here because that's a place where we can kind of open up to the whole tone scale, and we'll talk about that. But let's first make the D7 flat 5. So in our melody we've got answers back, right? And it's kind of what the band does in some of the big band versions. We can make this a 9th. So the next chord we're going to go into that is a D minor 7. And then I'm just going to move this down to get to my G7. Can add that G or not. And then I'm just right back ready to go with the 2-5-1. And that's that way for a lot of 5. 2 5 1s end up that way. So you just can move down inversions. That's a 2 5 1 in a different key. This is the 2 5 1 in the key of C. Okay, it's a 2 5 1 in the key of C because it starts on a D, which is the 2, and then we have 2 5 1. Okay, so we got 2 5 1. Let's talk about the melody in the right hand really quick. The first part over the C major 7 is real simple. We're just going to outline a major chord inversion, and then we're going to come down on this note when we go into that D7 flat 5. So, right, so it's so over that 2 5 1, your right hand is doing a couple things made up of some chromatics. So it's a little tricky at first, but once you get this one down, it's a nice little one to have in your hand because these chromatic little rolls are pretty common in jazz too, and nice to be able to add into your major scale to give it a little more color. So we're here. This is the part we're talking about. Okay, so I'll slow that down. We're going to walk up chromatically. Then hammer with your pinky. And then chromatic down. And then you have this approach note down. So approach notes when you hit target, you go a note above, like a half step above, and then you're targeting a note below. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Okay? So just do that a couple times and you'll get that in your hand. So over this D7 flat 5, what we can do is we can add the whole tone scale. The whole tone scale is basically constructed of notes only a whole step apart. So a whole step apart. And it has this really dreamy kind of quality to it. It sounds like a dream sequence. Really kind of crazy stuff. So you'll see like Thelonious Monk uses the scale a lot, does these kind of runs all the way down the keyboard with the whole tone scale. So that's one thing that we're going to be able to invoke over this D7. And what I'll do is I'll just start on this note here, and I'm just going to trill, and then I'm going to kind of use my hand to walk down this whole tone scale. And it's got a really neat effect, and it's kind of an interesting sound. So once I go back into that C major 7, or once I get into the 2 5 1 really outside of this chord, that's when I want to kind of come back to the C major sound a little bit more, and that'll, I can kind of get outside. Something, to get back into C major, right? So that's got us through here. So we get to the C major, or D7 flat 5. We got a place we could do a little whole tone thing. Then we've got our 2 5 1. We repeat. And then in the B section, we go to F major 7, which makes a lot of sense because it's the 4 in relationship to the C. So it's going to be the 4th note, right? That's coming up here. And to make a major 7th chord, we're going to take this and add our 7th, and the melody is here. So we're going to the next chord as a D7. That's a D. And we got our 7th note. And then we're going to go to flat 9. So this is still a 2-5-1. We got a 2 minor 7, except in this 5, which is our G7 here, we're going to flatten the 9. And that's a really nice sound. It's a little more dissonant than just doing the G7 by itself. That's because we have this tritone kind of stuck in there. But you can also think of this as a G with a B fully diminished chord on top of it. So that's really nice. So within that, we've got, we kind of play over the 4, which is an F. So I like to kind of. Then over this D, we have a D Mixolydian scale. So that's where we have our D scale, but instead of a C sharp, we're going to have a C natural. Kind of give that a 9th feel. And we move up to that, so that adds that little bit of tension, and then over that, it's nice to kind of do a diminished thing. And then again, coming back to the major chord. That's how I can kind of work between those chords. So over here, I'm kind of working with an F major 7 feel. I'm moving around those, the 3rd of F, the 7th. D Mixolydian gives me some options over D7, and then this 2-5-1 is, you know, pretty diatonic, but I have this nice tension in there from the G7 flat 9. So those aren't hard, fast rules. I mean, you can do whatever you want. In fact, over some of these more dissonant chords, you know, chromatics work and all kinds of stuff can work. So it's really up to you. But either way, I hope this video was kind of helpful to show you how to play this tune. On the way out, we'll just kind of play how I like to kind of take it out is over that 2-5-1. So the last time you come back around, it's. Fully diminished chord, whichever way you want to think of it, and that can kind of go and lead you back into the 2-5-1. So.